إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي المقصرة أولا بتقوى الله، فاتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ثم أما بعد. All praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious and the most merciful. The best of his peace and blessings shall be bestowed upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon those that follow his footsteps. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, last week we had a very sad incident that hit our community. And it is the death of our brother Ejaz Chaudhry, a resident of Mississauga, that was killed in his residence, in his apartment. That incident that sent shockwaves, not just throughout the Muslim community, but the Canadian society at large. During the time where people are rising against police brutality, abuse of power, use of excessive power by security agencies in North America and in Europe mainly. During the time where the African American community is standing up against injustice that they've been suffering for many, many years. Not just them, every reasonable, honest person is also supporting that cause. Because we all know very well, brutality, injustice, if it appears to be targeting a certain group, we all need to know that it's still not acceptable. Because in principle, injustice is not acceptable. Dhulm is not acceptable. Tyranny is not acceptable. Abuse of power is not acceptable in principle. It doesn't matter who's subjected to it. And as Muslims, as the Muslim community, the Canadian Muslim community at large, and here in the GTA, we need to have a strong, clear stand. Brother Ejaz had a mental health condition. And he was on medication. His family said he had an episode and they needed professional help. So they called professional help. But who appeared at the doors? It was law enforcement. And then they dealt with him as a threat. Now mistakes happen. It could have been a mistake. But we all know very well that the way this situation was handled is worrisome. It was not handled properly from the way it appears. A man in his 60s with a mental health condition that was reported could have been handled differently. Why is there a quick resort to fatal power? Especially during these times where police brutality is being called out. We completely support the idea of being reasonable and not blowing things out of proportion. Absolutely. And it could be an honest mistake. However, it is definitely raising the flag for more regulations on use of lethal power. It is definitely raising a lot of flags for police intervention and the police role. We all know security is very important. And for us as Muslims, our training through our deen is to be law-abiding and respect system and respect law. But we know something extremely important. If power and authority is misused, we're all paying a big price. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is warning us. There's a big lesson in this for us. That we should not be sitting on the borderline when anybody is subjected to injustice, not just a Muslim. Not just because Brother Ejaz rahmatullah alayhi was a Muslim. Anybody. You have a role and a duty as a Muslim. In this hadith that relates to this incident, عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه وأرضاه, said قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أول ما دخل النقص على بني إسرائيل أنه كان الرجل يلقى الرجل فيقول يا هذا اتق الله ودع ما تصنع فإنه لا يحل لك. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling us about the story of the people of the book before us. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messages to nations before Islam, and we believe that those messages were not handled properly and they were subjected to corruption. And here's a lesson to you. What happened? Let's study the older model. So during those times of other people of the book, or before us, Rasulullah is telling us, how did it start, deteriorate, and go astray from the right path? This is very important. He said, the first thing that happened to weaken the previous revelations and messages was when a man would meet another man and would tell him, Ya hada ittaqillaha wada' ma tasna'. So a man will be giving nusah, advice, amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, would say, Ya hada, what are you doing? So people would still yatanasahun, but would say, what are you doing? Ittaqillah. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing something wrong. So you're calling out wrong. Whether it's injustice, haram, whatever it is, people used to still call it out. However, and here's the main point, فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَحِلُّ لَكَ. This is haram. What are you doing? ittaqillah, this is haram. ثُمَّ يَلْقَاهُ مِنَ الْغَدِ وَهُوَ عَلَى حَالٍ. Then he would meet him again in a different place, at a different time, and that man is still doing the haram thing. So he hasn't changed his behavior. Whatever dhulm, whatever haram is doing, is still being committed. But look at what's happening now. فَلَا يَمْنَعْهُ ذَلِكَ أَنْ يَكُونَ أَكِيلَهُ وَشَرِيبَهُ وَقَعِيدَهُ. But that will not prevent him from associating with him, and breaking bread with him, and having a drink with him, and having a meal with him, and socializing with this person. The fact that this man abused the system, the fact that this man committed haram or dhulm, and then you would tell him haram, and then you would go and socialize with the man. What does that tell you? فَلَمَّا فَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَ بَعْضِهِمْ بِبَعْضٍ. So when those people, the people of the book, they would call out the haram, but they will still associate and socialize and normalize what happened. ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ بَعْضَهَا بِبَعْضٍ. What does it mean? They all became the same. So first thing we would see the haram, we'll say, Rahmatullah alayhi, Brother Ejaz, he was innocent. But we don't do anything. Not just we don't do anything, we might start justifying. What would happen at the end? You will normalize injustice. You will normalize wrong acts. By not calling it out, by not rejecting it, by not refusing it, by not denying it, by not standing against it even by words. And we're talking about the legitimate ways here. We live in a democratic country. You have legitimate ways that were given to you. The least of it is to speak. To speak and say this is wrong. There should not be police brutality. There should not be excessive use of power. If we sit in our homes and act as if there's nothing happening, this is when a dhulm will normalize. And this is where injustice will prevail if we do not act. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam read the ayah, لعن الذين كفروا من بني إسرائيل على لسان داود وعيسى ابن مريم ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. They have gained, those people of the book, they have gained the punishment by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they have disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They practiced injustice. They committed injustice against one another and nobody did anything. They normalized it. كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون. They were not rejecting الظلم. They were not standing together against injustice. Woe to them for their actions. ترى كثيرا منهم يتولون الذين كفروا لبئس ما قدمت لهم أنفسهم إلى نهاية الآية. They not only would not stand up against injustice, they would cozy up to those that are committing injustice. There are some people that would say no. They will give the oppressor a reason, an excuse. Some people will go as far as giving the oppressor a reason and an excuse. Those are even going to a further distance of dhulm and injustice to themselves and to the people around them. Then Rasulullah ﷺ said in the continuation of the hadith, كَلَّا وَاللَّهِ لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَلَتَأْخُذُنَّ عَلَى يَدِ الظَّالِمِ وَلَتُؤَطِّرُنَّهُ عَلَى الْحَقِّ أَطْرًا. Oh, by Allah, if you don't order ma'roof, justice, and if you don't call out injustice, تنهون عن المنكر, or reject it or refuse it openly, clearly, and if you don't stand against the oppressor, وَلَتَأْطُرُنَّهُ عَلَى الْحَقِّ أَطْرًا, and if you don't push them to be just and fair, تَأْطُرُنَّهُ عَلَى الْحَقِّ أَطْرًا, that means there has to be an action. You have to put pressure. So we make sure we live in a just society. What happens? وَلَا تَقْصُرُنَّهُ عَلَى الْحَقِّ قَصْرًا, another way of pushing for the sake of establishing justice. أَوْ لَيَضْرِبَنَّ اللَّهُ بِقُلُوبِ بَعْضِكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ ثُمَّ لَيَلْعَنَكُمْ كَمَا لَعَنَهُمْ رواه أبو داود. If you don't do this, in simple terms, injustice will normalize. Injustice will become the culture. It will become the new norm. If we accept it, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, if we don't talk to our MPs and representatives, if we don't stand up and support the ones that suffered injustice, the Chaudhry's family, it's going to become the norm. Some people would say, why are you making a big deal out of it? It's just an isolated incident. One incident is enough. One life is enough. We don't have to wait for it to grow and become like our neighbors in the south. This is very alarming, and we need to make sure we act as a community with all people of reason and people of minds and people of hearts to reject injustice. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه فيا فوز المستغفرين. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. عن أبي بكر الصديق رضي الله عنه وأرضاه said, is narrated that he said, يا أيها الناس إنكم تقرؤون هذه الآية يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم وإني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن الناس إذا رأوا الظالم فلم يأخذوا على يديه أوشك أن يعمهم الله بعقاب منه. He's telling us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some people are reading the ayah that's saying, oh, you only worry about yourself. And they're understanding it that even if injustice happens, I only worry about myself. I only worry about my actions. I only have to be good. It's what's in my heart. I don't care about what happens outside. This is wrong. This is a wrong interpretation of Islam. This mentality will lead us all into chaos. And then Sayyidina Abu Bakr said clearly, you are misunderstanding the ayah. Oh, by Allah, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling us, إِنَّ النَّاسَ إِذَا رَأَوُا الظَّالِمَ, if you see a tyrant, if you see an oppressor, فَلَمْ يَأْخُذُوا عَلَى يَدَيْهِ, and you don't stop them by the right means that you have available to you, by not raising your voice, by not calling out injustice, أَوْشَكَ أَن يَعُمَّهُمُ اللَّهُ بِعِقَابٍ مِّنْهِ, then you are just about to suffer the consequence, all of you. All of you collectively. Don't think that if you stay in your house doing nothing, that you're going to be saved. If injustice prevails, we're all, la qaddar Allah, we will be suffering. So my dear brothers and sisters, this is a lesson and an invitation. Whatever community action will be taken, there are a lot of, mashallah, imams and community leaders that are acting on this case. Do not stay behind. Do not sit at home and just watch the news and turn it off thinking, alhamdulillah, someone else. Do not fall into this trap. First of all, as a Muslim, any injustice you need to stand against. And as a good Canadian, you need to protect your society. We're protecting our community and we're protecting our society by standing up against injustice. Keep up with the news. And when the time is there for you to support your community, don't sit back and say, it's someone else. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our deen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all the weak ones across the globe. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yaghfir wa yarham li akhina Ejaz Chaudhry. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give his family the peace and tranquility and the sabr to endure this incident. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him and shower him with his mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enlighten our hearts and enlighten our minds and show us the right path and help us follow it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our deen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the power and the patience to hold this deen in our heart and help us apply it in our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lift the calamity that we're all suffering across the globe upon all human beings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us and accept from us. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-'afwa wal-'afiyata fi ad-dunya wal-akhirah. Allahumma 'afina fi dinina, Allahumma 'afina fi dunyana, Allahumma astur 'awratina wa amin rawatina wa ihfadhna min bayni yadayna wa min khalfina wa 'an yaminina wa 'an shama'ilina wa min fawqina wa na'udhu bi'azamatika an nughtala min tahtina innaka 'ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allahumma malaikatu yusalluna 'ala an-nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu 'alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأنت يا أخي أقم الصلاة.